They tell us we need to be grown-ups. They tell us we need to be able to manage hardship. They tell us we need those exams to be able to amount to anything. They tell us we should chase our dreams, yet also tell us to have a plan B. They tell us we're not responsible when they throw us out to live on our own. They tell us that things were much harder back in their day despite ignoring the fact that suicide rates among teenagers have never been so high as it is currently. They tell us we need to be rich because wealth equals success. They tell us we need to take our education serious despite never having gotten one of their own. They tell us about the importance of studying while watching Here Comes Honey Boo Boo on TLZ. They tell us we're too lazy to get a job despite the fact that we are in school for as many hours as they are at work. They tell us we need to stand up for ourselves, yet shame us when we speak against them. They tell us to always be brave, yet they tell us to be egotistic at the same time. They tell us that school is important also when we ask them if they remember Pythagoras. They tell us to be grown-ups. They tell us to treat everyone nicely, yet ridicule people with Down syndrome. They tell us that computers rot the brain while flickering through their smartphone. They tell us that games were much better back in their day despite ignoring the current popularity of games like Super Mario Bros., Pac-Man, The Legend of Zelda, and even Tetris. They tell us not to idolize pop stars despite treating Elvis Presley and Patrick Swayze like gods. They tell us not to care about the latest fashion clothing while also buying the newest smart TV. They tell us the music was much better back in their day despite ignoring artists like Kurt Nelson, Eminem, Bruno Mars, 50 Cent, Charlie Puth, and way more. They tell us to be grown-ups. They tell us not to be hypercritical while also telling us not to act like rebels. They tell us not to be racist while also making slightly racist remarks. They tell us that cartoons are for children despite knowing the origin of cartoons. They tell us to take care of our finances while also using thousands on grocery shopping. They tell us that smoking, stealing, and reckless driving is all wrong despite the most of them having had experience with just that. They tell us to always obey the law despite buying the newest DVD from their coworker for a couple of dollars. They tell us to always stay current with the news while a loudmouthed black woman screams at the top of her lungs on CNN in the background. They tell us to always live life to the fullest while having had the same mundane job for decades. They tell us never to talk to strangers despite ignoring the fact that millions of people meet through online dating. They tell us to be grown-ups. They teach us to fight for our country and potentially lose our lives. They teach us to manipulate and control other people for the sake of personal gain. They teach us to live unhealthy lifestyles with way too much fast food and way too many bad decisions. They teach us that having a mental illness is the same as being weak. They teach us to either live a life in luxury or a life in poverty. They teach us to follow their leads and make the same mistakes they did. They teach us to be grown-ups. But do they teach us this thing called life? Peace.
Whenever someone gets a certified funky stamp of approval, we're going to throw an egg in their name at the elusive stump. Legend has it nothing's ever hit that stump and nothing ever will. Well, we'll see about that.